The phone buzzed against the nightstand at 2:17 a.m. and I knew, before I even reached for it, that the message wasn't meant for me. Sarah's screen lit up with a single preview line. Still tasting you on my lips, can't wait for round 2. My thumb hovered, heart already sprinting ahead of my brain. And when I tapped the glass, the full thread spilled open like a wound. There were photos, her in the hotel mirror, hair tousled, lips swollen, a man's hand sliding up the inside of her thigh. The timestamp read 11:42 p.m., the night she was supposedly sipping margaritas with the girls in Miami. I sat on the edge of our bed in the dark, the same bed where she'd kissed me goodbye 2 days earlier, whispering, "I need this, babe, just some breathing room with my college crew." And I believed her because believing her had always been easier than breathing. She'd left on a Thursday, suitcase wheels rattling down the driveway like tiny accusations I ignored. I'd stood at the window watching her Uber disappear, waving like an idiot, proud of how secure we were after 8 years. Sarah was the woman who still wrote me sticky notes on the bathroom mirror. "You're my favorite human," and who cried at shelter commercials even when we couldn't afford another dog. We'd survived her mom's cancer, my layoffs, the miscarriage that left us holding each other in an empty nursery at 3 a.m. If anyone asked, I'd say we were the couple people envied. That's why the first crack felt like a hallucination. She'd been quieter the week before the trip, scrolling her phone under the dinner table, laughing at jokes I couldn't see. I chalked it up to work stress. She managed events for a boutique hotel chain, always juggling vendors and bridezillas. When she said the girls were doing a long weekend in South Beach, I packed her sunscreen myself and told her to send me selfies. She did, 3 tame shots by the pool, sunglasses hiding her eyes, captions like "living my best life," with the palm tree emoji. I liked everyone, proud husband, clueless. But the phone in my hand now told a different story. The man's name was Derek, no last name, just a contact photo of him shirtless on a yacht. Their thread went back 4 months. Inside jokes about late-night inventory. Voice notes that made my stomach flip when I pressed play and heard her moan his name. There were plans. "Tell him you're at yoga, I'll leave the side door open." There were confessions. "I love how you see me, how you don't treat me like I'm already someone's wife." I read until the words blurred, until the room spun, until I had to clamp a hand over my mouth to keep the sound inside. I wanted to hurl the phone, wanted to scream, wanted to rewind to the moment she zipped that suitcase and beg her to stay. Instead I sat frozen, replaying every ordinary second of the last year, hunting for the moment I'd missed the shift. Friday bled into Saturday. I didn't sleep. I fed the dog, watered the plants, answered her breezy texts. Flights delayed, love you. With thumbs that felt detached from my body. I told myself maybe it was a mistake, maybe the photos were old, maybe Derek was a catfish. I called my buddy Nate, voice cracking on the second syllable of her name. He came over with a 6-pack and listened while I paced the kitchen, reading him the worst lines like evidence in a trial. Nate's a divorce attorney. He hears this stuff daily, but even he went quiet. "You gotta decide what you need, man," he said finally. "Proof or peace?" I chose proof. I cloned her cloud account to my laptop, something I'd learned back when we thought identity theft was our biggest threat, and watched the folder populate with videos I never wanted to see. Sarah on a hotel balcony, laughing as Derek filmed her dancing in lingerie I'd bought her for our anniversary. Sarah whispering, "I've never felt this alive," while my wedding ring caught the light on her finger. I closed the laptop and vomited in the sink. Sunday morning she landed. I heard the key in the lock, the familiar jangle that used to mean safety. She walked in smelling like coconut and airport coffee, rolling her suitcase with the same smile she'd left with. "God, I missed you," she said, arms open. I let her hug me, felt her body melt against mine the way it had 1,000 times, and for one traitorous second my arms almost lifted to hold her back. Then I stepped away. "How was Miami?" I asked, voice flat. She launched into a story about bottomless brunch and a drag show, words tumbling too fast. I watched her mouth move and saw the balcony video superimposed. When she paused to kick off her sandals, I said, "Show me the photos." She blinked. "What?" "Your camera roll." "All of them." Her tan faded 2 shades. She fumbled for excuses. "Battery died, wrong phone, girls have the good ones." But I was already pulling up the clone folder on the TV screen. The room filled with the sound of her recorded laughter, Derek's low murmur. Sarah's knees buckled. She sank onto the couch, hands pressed to her mouth like she could shove the truth back in. I didn't yell. I wanted to shatter every glass in the cabinet, but the words came out quiet, lethal. For months, Sarah. For months of lying to my face while I packed your damn sunscreen. She cried. Ugly, snotty sobs that would have broken me 6 months ago. She said his name like it hurt her throat. Derek was the hotel's new photographer. Charming, separated, made her feel 25 again. She swore it was just escape, just sex, that she loved me, that she'd end it. I got scared, she whispered. We turned into roommates who pay a mortgage. You stopped looking at me like I was magic. I laughed, a sound like gravel. I looked at you every morning when you stole the covers. I looked at you when you cried over ovulation tests. I looked at you and saw my whole life. She had no answer for that. We sat in the wreckage for hours. She begged me to fight for us, listed therapy, date nights, anything. I asked the questions that clawed my insides. Did she say my name when she came? Did she think of our house when she was in his? She answered some, dodged others, cried harder. At dusk she fell asleep on the couch, exhausted from truth. I watched her chest rise and fall and felt a grief so wide it swallowed the room. This was the woman who knew how I took my coffee, who sang off-key to our wedding song in the shower, who once drove 3 hours to bring me soup when I had the flu. She was still in there. But so was the stranger who'd moaned another man's name on a balcony in Miami. I didn't kick her out that night. I couldn't. Instead, I carried her suitcase to the guest room, laid her favorite pillow on the bed, and locked our bedroom door for the first time in 8 years. Monday I called in sick, drove to the beach alone, and sat in the sand until the tide soaked my jeans. I thought about burning the photos, deleting the videos, pretending none of it happened. I thought about forgiveness and whether love could cauterize a wound this deep. I thought about the version of Sarah who'd promised forever and the version who'd whispered, "I've never felt this alive," to someone else. Both were real. That was the worst part. Tuesday she left for her sister's. She packed light, eyes swollen, asking if I'd call. I said I didn't know. She touched my cheek, fingers trembling, and for a second I leaned into it, muscle memory, before pulling away. The door closed softer than I expected. The house echoed. I walked from room to room, touching surfaces we'd chosen together. The kitchen island where we'd danced to old R&B. The couch where we'd binge-watched every season of The Office. The bed where we'd made plans for kids we never had. Every corner held a ghost of us laughing. I hated how much I missed her already. Weeks blurred. Nate checked in, brought beer, didn't push. I ran until my lungs burned, worked late, adopted a rescue mutt just to have something that needed me. Sarah texted apologies, then memories, then silence. One night I found her wedding dress in the back of the closet, still in the garment bag. I unzipped it, pressed the lace to my face, and cried like a child. I wasn't crying for the dress. I was crying for the man who believed promises were unbreakable. I never took her back. Some bridges burn so clean you can't even see the ashes. But I kept the dog, renamed him Scout, taught him to fetch on the same beach where I'd sat soaked and raging. Sometimes I catch couples holding hands and feel a pang. Not jealousy, just recognition of how fragile the thread is. Sarah moved to Seattle 6 months later. I saw the announcement on a mutual friend's story. She looked thinner, eyes older. I hope she found whatever she was chasing. I hope it keeps her warm on the nights she remembers my name. Trust isn't a gift you give once. It's a garden you water every ordinary day. And I learned too late that neglect looks a lot like routine. I still flinch when phones buzz at 2 a.m. I still check camera rolls when I date, which isn't often. But I also wake up to Scout's cold nose and the quiet knowledge that I survived the unsurvivable. Love can be a liar, but so can fear, and the only truth I carry now is this. The heart that breaks open can still beat. It just beats scarred, wiser, and careful with its wonder.